I've seen it happen a lot. You spot a cheap Ultrabook, think you're getting a steal, and then 3 weeks later the screen flickers, the fan screams every time you open a game, and the battery can't make it through a single workday. The regret of that bargain bin purchase sticks with you, especially when you've got a decent amount to spend and you actually need a machine that can keep up with both work and a bit of play. That's why I wanted to spend some time digging into the Asus Zenbook 14 OLED UX3402 before I hit record. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the Zenbook sits in a weird sweet spot. It's marketed as a premium productivity notebook, but it's also pushed under the gaming laptop umbrella because of the 13th Gen i9 and that gorgeous 2.8K OLED panel. The question most buyers ask is simple: will this thing actually let me game without turning my lap into a hot plate, and will it still feel light enough to carry around when I'm not gaming? I started by reading a handful of buyer comments on forums and tech subreddits. The consensus was that people love the display but are wary of the thermal envelope, especially because the chassis is only 14 inches thick and the GPU is an integrated Intel SoC, not a dedicated RTX. Let's break it down the way a real-world user would experience it. Imagine you're a freelance video editor who also streams a couple of indie games on the side. You open Premiere, drop a 4K timeline on the screen, and the Zenbook's OLED immediately shows you why the resolution matters. Colors pop, deep blacks, and the 28801800 pixel count gives you a lot of screen real estate without having to squint. For color-critical work, that's a win you can see straight away. The i9-13900H is a beast for CPU-heavy tasks. Compiling code, rendering effects, or juggling multiple virtual machines feels buttery smooth. In everyday use, browsing, office apps, watching YouTube, you'll hardly notice any lag. Now, fire up a game like Valorant or Rocket League. Those titles are not GPU-intensive, and the integrated Intel SoC can push decent 60 frames per second numbers at 1080p on low to medium settings. The frame rates stay consistent for about an hour before the fan kicks in. That's where the Zenbook's cooling design shows both its strength and its compromise. The dual fan system does keep temperatures below 85°C during sustained load, which is respectable for a thin chassis, but the acoustic side can be a little jarring. Once the GPU and CPU hit their sweet spot, you'll hear a steady whine that's louder than the typical office laptop. If you're in a quiet cafe or a shared workspace, you might find yourself turning the volume down or lowering graphics to keep the fan from becoming a distraction. Battery life is another practical point that separates the hype from reality. On paper, a 71Wh battery sounds generous, and it does give you roughly 78 hours of mixed usage: web browsing, document editing, a bit of video playback. The moment you start a gaming session, though, you'll see the battery dip to under 50% in 30 minutes. That's not unexpected for a machine that pushes an i9 and an OLED panel, but it does mean you need to plan charging sessions around any serious playtime. If you're the type who travels with a charger in your bag and you only game at home, it's fine. If you expect to game on the go, the Zenbook will feel like a compromise. Portability is where the Zenbook shines. At just 1.3 kilograms and a thickness of 16 millimeters, it slides easily into a backpack next to a notebook or a tablet. The chassis feels premium, the foggy silver finish gives it a muted, professional look, and the build quality feels solid without the bulk of a typical gaming laptop that houses a large cooling block and a hefty GPU. The keyboard is backlit, with a decent travel distance that feels comfortable for long typing sessions, and the trackpad is responsive enough for quick navigation. For gamers who also type a lot of code or emails, that balance matters. So who should actually consider spending the premium price on this model? If you're a creator who needs a high-resolution OLED display for photo or video work, and you also enjoy casually sports titles or indie games that don't demand a dedicated graphics card, the Zenbook 14 gives you a single device that covers both worlds. It's also a good pick for students in design or engineering programs who want a portable workstation that can handle CAD renderings or simulations without dragging a desktop around campus. The integrated Intel GPU, combined with the i9, means you'll get enough horsepower for most productivity tasks and light gaming, all while staying under a size that fits in tight lecture hall seats. On the flip side, if you're a hardcore gamer who wants to run AAA titles at high settings, you'll likely be disappointed. The lack of a discrete GPU means